Hey everyone, just wanted to go over a few items from last week and take a look at this week in preview. So last week, week 5, we talked about human resources. So hopefully you got a good, kind of a good view of what human resources are in the healthcare organization. Looked at, obviously we had a case study last week to look at a human resource issue. Had some discussion about human resources in the discussion boards with regard to shortages in staffing. So important to realize that, and hopefully the case study showed you this, and obviously in your reading as well, that there's a human resources department, but a lot of human resources activity takes part in departments by managers. So really important to realize that even though you may or may not be interested in going into the human resources function, if you plan on being in management, you will certainly have to deal with human resource issues. So really important to understand some of the laws and regulations, understand appropriate ways to act, etc. So this week, week 6, we are moving into operations, quality management, process improvement is our topic for the week. And again, you'll just get a touch of it in this class. You'll get 2 weeks of this area in either 2300 or 2350. And then there's a whole class on quality improvement. So you get lots of quality improvement, which is important because it's really one of the main focuses of administration and healthcare today, quality and patient safety. So really important areas. So this week we have there's only one video. So there's a video, short video. Take a look at that about quality improvement. We have a discussion in the flip grid, so make sure that you're in the flip grid for your discussion. And I would caution you. Sometimes this discussion baffles students. I'm not sure why, but what we're looking for in this discussion is, when you think about a healthcare organization, the decisions that they make are typically very complex. So by making one change to one area can really impact so many other areas. So think about maybe even create an example in your mind or write about an example where like this is if they decided to modify the physical space. Maybe they decided to make a change in the emergency department to do some construction, and it takes it from 25 beds to 15 beds. That's not just going to impact patient load. It's going to impact scheduling. It's going to impact, obviously, the ability to accept patients via emergency mechanisms like ambulances, etc., because you'll be out of space. There are so many different stakeholders involved. And it's going to affect revenue, obviously, because you're going to have less patients. And can that impact your ability to pay for these modifications? Just think about one of these complex situations. Like I said, create one or find a case study of one, or just think about it. And how do those complexities impact effectiveness, efficiency, cost, and patient-centeredness? So think about in a situation like that. What do we need to be thinking of to keep things effective, efficient, to keep the cost appropriate, to keep the patient at the center of care, because there are so many stakeholders. So think about that. It's, when we do process improvement, that's what we do. We look at not just the main problem, but we go very broadly and look at every possible aspect of the problem. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get you to think in that process improvement mindset. We also have a written assignment for this week. This is another one. Apparently this week is the one that baffles students. This is another one that tends to baffle students because they write about every single process improvement method. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for you to dig into one. So if you want to talk about CQI or TQM or Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma or Lean on its own, whatever it is that you want to write about, choose one. It can be one of these that are listed here that I just named. There are others out there as well. So take one of those process improvements, dig into it in a little more detail, talk about it, tell me about it. How does it work to make improvements? How does it apply to healthcare? Because most of these started in manufacturing. So how does it apply to healthcare? Has it been effective in healthcare? And then even if you have a case study or something like that that shows its effectiveness or its lack of effectiveness, you can share that as well. Because this is all going to be information that is shared from external sources, please make sure that you're citing your sources. You can't just copy and paste a paragraph and flip around a few words and call that your own work. You need to write in your own words. I don't want to have to turn students in for academic integrity violations, but I will. So I need to. We need to maintain a certain level of decorum with regard to academic integrity. So make sure that you're reading about these things, you're learning them, and then you're writing it in your own words. And when you're writing it in your own words, you still have to cite those sources. You still have to, you're writing all about CQI, for example, maybe you just read about it in the textbook. You need to, when you're sharing information that you learned from elsewhere, you need to cite that. You need to cite it in text. And an in-text citation for APA is the author's name and then the date. If you're sharing a direct quote, which should never be more than 10 to 15% of your paper, if you're sharing a direct quote, so something that's in quotation marks, that you should have the author's name, the date, and then the page number that you got that from. Or if you pulled it from a website, the paragraph number, something like that. So, you need to do research. That's the whole, that's what we do. But we're starting, with the very first class to prepare you for your thesis that you'll do as a senior, assuming you're in the HSA program. But preparing you for that, which is a lengthy research paper where you need to cite your sources. So we start preparing you for that right away. And you should, a required book for this class and something that you're going to want to keep throughout your entire career at RMU is the APA 7th edition manual. So you should have that and you should be able to read that and figure out how to cite an APA. If you have questions on APA or on paraphrasing, please let me know. I'm happy to answer them. I want folks to be prepared. In the last papers that I just graded, I saw some issues that were concerning. So just want you to be prepared for that. Okay, so let's talk about the quiz. So first question, major federal law affecting human resources primarily addresses. So we've got accommodations for people with disabilities. Yeah, obviously we need to accommodate our staff that have disabilities to make sure that their ability to complete their work is available to them. Accommodations, just like accommodations are available, you may be familiar with accommodations, ADA accommodations for students, because sometimes you'll have a student that maybe has a little extra time for a test, or maybe needs some help with needs to be able to do things orally instead of written due to a disability with the use of their hand. There's lots of different ways that we could have disability accommodations in the academic environment. The same thing applies for the work environment. So let's say that maybe I have a condition that requires that I eat at a certain time, or that I have access to a refrigerator so that I can keep my insulin cold, or something like that. You need to, the ADA requires that you meet people where they are for certain accommodations. It doesn't mean that you need to completely revise a job for somebody if it's not appropriate for them based on their level of disability or whatever it might be. The ADA is very prescriptive on what needs to be done and what doesn't need to be done. So important to keep in mind that employees can get accommodations too. And actually now you'll see that as you're applying for jobs. That's typically one of the questions. It's done anonymously, but it's one of the questions on any job application. Do you have a disability that will require accommodations for this position you're applying for? So important to know. Safety of the workplace, OSHA, so very, very important HR law, and then protections for applicants and rights of employees. So Equal Opportunity Act, the Equal Employment Opportunity Act, those types of things, very important. So all of these were important HR laws, or important federal laws that impact HR. Next question, human resources staff use of third-party websites can assist in. So lots of options here, but our answer was recruitment. So think about, actually the other answer that was chosen most frequently is none of these are correct. And obviously that's not accurate because we do use third-party websites in recruitment all of the time. Think monster.com, indeed.com, linkedin.com, ziprecruiter.com, All of those are obviously third-party websites, and a lot of places rely on sites like that to get candidates. Also, you see very specialty specific employment areas or employment sites like higheredjobs.com or like I'm a member of the Healthcare Compliance Association, so I get a thing from the Healthcare Compliance Association every week that tells me of the latest and greatest jobs in healthcare compliance across the country, so across the world. So third-party websites, very important in recruitment, not so much in retention, not so much in performance appraisals. You may use software in some of those areas, but not necessarily a third-party website. But recruitment, very, very important. That's how you're reaching the greatest number of people in today's environment. Next question. The highest forecast percentage growth in health occupations employment by 2022 is for which of the following occupations? So this was just noted in the textbook in the reading. The highest growth is for physician assistants. I think the second highest was physical therapists, if I remember correctly. Really interesting. For a while, it was health service managers, but I think we're seeing more people. It's still a huge growth rate. I think it's like 17 or 18%, so really much higher than most other business areas. But unfortunately, we're seeing a decrease in the number of physicians that are going into family practice. And we're also seeing hospitals and healthcare organizations that are having significant financial difficulty. So, on the flip side, but it's also much less expensive for a person to seek a degree in, it's typically a master's degree, bachelor's followed by another year for a master's degree to become a physician assistant. So much cheaper for the person, much cheaper for the organization because PAs don't make anywhere near as much as physicians do. So all around, and they provide great care, typically at the primary care setting, or sometimes in specialty. They may work in emergency medicine, orthopedics. I see a lot of PAs, sometimes OBGYN as well. But I guess they can work in any specialty that they have completed residency in. But I tend to see PAs more in primary care, orthopedics, and emergency medicine for some reason. But so our answer there is physician assistants. Next question. Incentive compensation is believed to have what effect on employee performance? So think of yourself as an employee. So if my boss came to me today and said, hey, we're going to have an incentive next month so that, if you interact with 10 students on campus every single day, we'll give you an extra $1,000 in your paycheck. So what's that going to do? It's going to motivate me to get out there and talk to students on campus every day. Probably not the kind of thing we're going to do right now given COVID, but it's always nice to, when you're walking across campus, it's nice to have an interaction with someone maybe that you don't know. A smile and a hello can make your day a little brighter sometimes. So that could be something that they would never pay us for that. That's part of our job, but that it would motivate people, and oftentimes incentive compensation is there to motivate people to get out and do something, maybe over and above for their job, increase productivity, etc. So increased motivation is our answer there. Okay, so that's all I've got. If you have any questions on the discussion board or on the written assignment for this week, please let me know. Again, for the discussion, think about how these complex decisions, what the implications for effectiveness, efficiency, cost, patient-centeredness are for these complex decisions that we have in the healthcare setting. And then for our written assignment this week, choose one of the quality management methods or one of the process improvement methods and discuss that and dig into it. But please make sure that you're using your APA 7th edition. We're on 7th edition now. Your APA citations, your reference list. Make sure that you're not just copying and pasting and flipping a few words, that you truly need to write in your own words and cite properly, even when it's in your own words. So any questions on any of that, please reach out. Otherwise, I will see you all in the classroom. Thanks.